Today I'm going to list 5 things I think will happen this summer and next season if the takeover doesn't happen and we're left with Mike Ashley for a little while longer yet. Before I get into the 5 things that I think will happen this summer and next season if there's no takeover, just to let you know, later in the week I will be doing a video which looks at 5 things that will happen if there is a takeover. So without further ado, let's look at the first thing I think will happen if there's no takeover this summer. Number 1, and it's the most obvious one really, we're going to be stuck with Steve Bruce as our manager. And to me this is hugely concerning. For some reason there's been constant comparisons all season between Bruce and Rafa Benitez, our previous manager, mainly by those in the media, I have to say, but also there is a section of our fans who for some bizarre reason didn't seem to like Benitez at all. Anyway, I'm really pleased that Steve Bruce has managed to get us to as many points as he has this season, and Premier League survival of course. But that's as far as my praise goes for him. The fact is, out of 37 league games so far, and a few cup games, we have been absolutely awful for the majority of them. We've played with 5 at the back far too often, something that generally just doesn't work, and it's led to boring matches with very few goals scored. The past week or so of the season has been particularly bad, and it culminated in that truly dreadful game at the weekend against Brighton. And that performance isn't really anything unusual. We've seen that so many times this season, and with Bruce, that's what we're going to get more of next season. My biggest worry about Steve Bruce still managing us throughout next season is that I just don't believe he can possibly gain as many points again, because I genuinely believe he's been lucky in a lot of games, and he just can't continue being lucky. That luck will run out, and when it does, it's going to be a disaster. Okay, the second thing that I think will happen is we're going to lose our best players. We all know what Mike Ashley is about. If he's in charge, if any kind of player looks like they have increased their market value, he sells them. He will sell them on for a profit. And that is the model he has. We know that. That's what he does. So people like Saint-Maximin, who's had a great season, his market value has definitely increased, probably doubled, and he's already been linked with a move away. I think he's the kind of player that we'll probably see go and replace with someone much cheaper. Almiron's another person who's been linked with a move to Spain, and you can just see that these players, perhaps themselves and their agents, are trying to work a way out, but also Ashley is more than willing to sell these players if he thinks he can make some money on them. And if you take those two out of the team, what on earth do we have left? I mean, yes, you could replace them, and they probably will be replaced with cheaper alternatives, but the problem with that is it's a complete risk, it's a gamble, and if you don't get players who are as good as them or as productive as them, then you are really flirting with relegation again. Okay, the third thing I think is going to happen if there's no takeover this summer, next season you're going to see crowds at St James's Park fall to their lowest Premier League levels. Now, I include when the stadium was only 36,000 in capacity. I really do believe that if we are stuck with Ashley and Steve Bruce next season and we lose some of our best players, the crowds are going to walk away. If the owner's not going to invest in the team, then you can't expect the fans to invest in the club. Newcastle United under Mike Ashley merely exist. A sporting club should exist to try to be the best they can be, to try and win something. Under Ashley, we do neither of those things, and people will continue to vote with their feet if there's no takeover. And we're stuck with Steve Bruce. That's a big part of this. Because let's be realistic, we're going to be in a relegation battle next season, and it's not going to be fun to watch. And the fourth thing that's going to happen if there's no takeover is we will continue to score very few goals. Not only are we going to be left with Bruce's really dire brand of football, but we're also going to have the same forwards we have this season. As I said in an earlier point, Mike Ashley is in no mood to invest in the team properly. He has one foot out of the door as far as he's concerned, and if he's still in charge next season, then the transfer budget is going to be minuscule, and you can guarantee that the forwards we've got now are going to be the forwards we have next season. And that includes Joe Linton, who, let's be honest, has been an absolute disaster. I understand the arguments about the system and the formation not suiting him and him being isolated up front in a position that is not his natural position all season, but it isn't just about that for me. Obviously the lack of goals is concerning, but also just like when you look at a £40 million player, you sort of see elements of class and you think, oh yeah, he's really good on the ball or whatever. I just don't see that with Joe Linton. He just looks like every other player we have. He's all right, but he's not amazing, and he certainly doesn't have any major impact on that team. And the fifth thing I think will happen next season, and it's the one I'm most concerned about, is I think we're going to concede loads more goals next season. Now, I know we've had some results where we've conceded lots of goals. We've had some big defeats this season. But generally, for a bottom half team, our defensive record has been pretty good. We have been quite tight in a lot of games, and that's been brilliant. And that's the reason why we've managed to have as many points as we have, because we've nicked goals and got a lot of points from those very few goals that we've scored. However, the recent signs show that Steve Bruce is kind of losing that ability to keep that defence tight in a lot of games. Now, I know that there's been a lot of chopping and changing of players because of Project Restart and injuries and stuff like that, and that's fair enough. But my main worry next season is if we can't score a lot of goals because we're not investing in the forwards, and we start conceding more goals, then that is just a recipe for relegation. We all know what's coming next season if there's no takeover, and the defensive record worries me massively, and I think it's the #1 reason why Steve Bruce won't be able to get us as many points next season. The fact is, the gap between this season and next season is so short. It's so crucial for Newcastle United to have a good summer. To put it bluntly, I'm going to be really concerned about the immediate future of the football club if there's no takeover. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you really soon for another video.